A bid to minimize South Africa's ongoing load-shedding woes, Eskom has announced plans to install smart meters in homes across the country. Now, according to the Electricity Minister, Dr. Hosiensu Ramagopa, these tools will enable Eskom to remotely monitor and control citizens' geysers in order to reduce the pressure on the national grid. Well, to speak to us more on this, we're joined by Mark Allewell. He is from Sensor Networks. Mark, good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Let's begin with how this proposal by Eskom, well, let's say by extension government, to control geysers remotely. How would it work?
Good morning to you and your viewers. How will it work? Well, either they're going to put a piece of technology on the DB board to be able to switch various things off in the house, or they're going to do smart geysers and remotely manage those smart geysers, switching them off at certain times of the day that are sort of peak. So that's traditionally in the morning or in the evening when people are using their geysers the most.
What about real, meaningful impact on reducing load shedding? Because that's the purpose behind all of this. Would it have the desired impact?
Yeah, it's a good question. 8 million geysers, all going on at between 5 and 7 at night. And effectively, a geyser is like having a kettle in your roof, and you're using it once a day to make coffee. So I think the minister came out and said it's around about 10% of the total load on the grid. So, we've been talking about this for a long time, the last 5 years, of how meaningful it is to actually turn off geysers at certain times of the day. I think it'll have an immediate impact. And I think that your return on investment is really high, being able to shift that load.
Let's talk about the cost of doing all of this, Mark, because at the end of the day, someone has to foot the bill. Now, government is proposing this. That means Eskom, in all likelihood, will be the implementing agent. These smart meters being placed in your DB board at home. Do you think that government has the money to shoulder that, or is it naturally going to be passed on to the consumer?
So you could probably look at it in a few different ways. Is the investment worth it short term and long term? Yes, I think it is. Remembering that geysers have a number of issues. First of all, they're a 40% energy consumer in the home. So 40% of all the bills that you pay in your house in terms of electricity are from your geyser heating your water. And secondly, as a massive input to that, 50% of all insurance claims in the home is from water damage from geysers. So if you look at the players of energy saving and insurance play and real value to customers, a customer can save between 20 and 30% managing their geyser and having that control. So a geyser traditionally costs around about 1,000 Rand a month to run now. That's for one geyser in a house. So the end customer will ultimately save being able to manage their geysers remotely. The cost of load shedding far exceeds any investment into a piece of hardware. And then you've got the insurers that want to reduce that risk as well. We have some insurance partners at the moment that are paying for the hardware, installing it. So I think that there's multiple players here that you can rely on, not just the end customer having to foot a bill for load shedding.
Okay, making sense. And then the final question has to do with timelines. Things take time, particularly when it is being done by government. How long would it take to implement this, Mark? I'm talking about every household that will need to be fitted with a smart meter.
So at the moment, insurance companies replace 20 to 30,000 geysers a month. That ecosystem is built. It's a claim. So 20 to 30,000 geysers could be replaced every single month with a smart piece of technology on it. So suddenly you're at 500,000 by the end of the year. So it's relatively quick. It really is low-hanging fruit. And I'd like to commend the minister because he's the first one that's actually realized what geysers do in Eskom, and he's picking the low-hanging fruit. So I think it's a great idea.
Well, we shall see how long it is going to take, but clearly it is something that is worth having. Thank you very much for your time and your inputs here. Mark Allewell is the CEO of Sensor Networks.